Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Tolhurst and welcome to Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 14th of May, already nearly halfway through the month. And yes, I hope everyone enjoyed the sunshine today. We'll certainly be providing sunshine for the next, just over the next hour or so. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers around all latest news tonight. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Now, Zach, we're going to start the show off this week with obviously Russia and Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, because there's been some huge news coming out of that. Now, NATO expansion looks to be happening as Finland have applied for membership to join the alliance. I think that's still pending approval at the moment. But this news will be a humiliation for President Vladimir Putin of Russia, who is causing a huge amount of problems in Ukraine. Now, as you would have seen this week, guys, Russia has still continued to not give up, bombarding, targeting civilians as usual. Horrifying video footage I saw during the week of civilians actually being shot by Russian troops. Harrowing scenes, I have to say. War crimes being committed. And there was also a trial in Kiev as well, or Kiev, where a Russian soldier has actually appeared in court over a potential prosecution after apparently committing a war crime in the war in Ukraine. So, what do you make to the latest developments in Ukraine regarding the invasion from the Russian invaders?
Yes, obviously quite significant developments this week, Charlie. One of the most significant ones being that obviously during the week was the news that it was Finland, I believe, that announced its intentions that they were going to apply for NATO membership. Now, it has to go through a parliamentary approval from what I understand, Charlie, but there will be enough support in Parliament to apply for NATO membership. This is huge news, Charlie. This is massive news because the likes of Finland have been defensively neutral for how many years now? It's been so many years that have been neutral on defense matters, Charlie. And obviously they have been neutral. But they've decided that this, because of the invasion of Ukraine and the threat that has from Russia, they have decided now that the assessment has pretty much changed now, Charlie. They've decided now, because of what Russia is doing, it is time to have some security and defense cooperation, and that means joining NATO, Charlie. And it's probably not surprise as well that bit of news, to be fair, Charlie, because as you know, Sweden and Finland have been obviously neutral for quite a long time, but obviously all countries are sort of reassessing their defense spending, defense arrangements for a long time now. And this is one of the ways to obviously increase the defense is to join NATO and provide military support, Charlie. And that's unthinkable if in these days it to be thinking of Sweden and Finland as one of those countries that are doing it. By the way, sorry if you see a lot of flash photography on my back of the screen. I've got the light off, and I've also got Eurovision in the background as well. So, so I think this move is important, Charlie. I think it's good news, and I think it shows, Charlie, that it's been another strategic blunder by Russia by thinking that Russia's thinking would be that by not joining NATO, this lot wouldn't be provoked. Sweden and Finland would feel scared from the Russian potential threat. It hasn't. They've all united around, all the NATO members and some of the non-NATO members as well. And in Finland's instance, they've decided that the security deterrence would be better inside a NATO alliance, NATO membership, because they'll get support as well. And Sweden and Finland, important this week, took various steps, Charlie, to make sure that there is security guarantees during the transition period when they do join NATO, because obviously you don't join NATO straight away. There obviously has to be some sort of transition period, some sort of agreement for the terms and conditions of joining NATO, and when they do join, what the agreements are. So what the UK has done this week is give Sweden and Finland guarantees, Charlie, that if their country is invaded or attacked, that the UK would come to their rescue. And this is, by the way, this has been several other countries as well have done this as well, Charlie. But UK, I can name as one of them as well. So this is a big moment, Charlie, for worldwide defence, Charlie. Worldwide as well. This is a big moment as well. It really is, and I cannot underestimate the importance of this. Now, there it looks like to be one hiccup on the way potentially, so I do go dark there, obviously. but yeah, the one hiccup that looks to be at the moment potentially is Turkey, because they don't seem to be favourable to Sweden, NATO, Finland joining. However, I think from the way one of Turkey's ministers pointed out today, I think there would be room for Turkey being persuaded for Sweden and Finland to join NATO at the moment. I think they're not, the sounding is not great at the moment, but I think that it sounds like they're very persuaded potentially if they get given the right guarantees and everything like that. So yeah, it is a big moment, Charlie, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Zach, I think it's a major moment for obviously that country to join NATO. But what about this court trial involving this Russian soldier who is obviously given an unidentified name, as we know at the moment? I mean, I've heard reports on the news. I think CNN shared something the other day of a Russian general who was responsible for these war crimes committed in Ukraine. What do you make to this trial in Kyiv for this Russian soldier?
Yeah, I think it's important that they start these war crimes off, Charlie, because there's been plenty of them. And it's obviously good to get them in as early as you can to find the people who've committed this potentially and get them away as early and put them in, bang them behind bars as early as possible. Now, considering these trials are taking part in Ukraine, for example, and they're jailing Russian people, the Kremlin will come at the usual tosh and say, well, they're just presumed guilty by name already, and they can't conduct this trial fairly. Well, truth is, Charlie, the Ukrainian prosecutors have had very good records on this, and the judicial system is pretty good there, Charlie, no doubt about it. So the fact they're prosecuting a Russian in the Ukrainian courts, Charlie, shows the confidence the Ukrainians have already of getting this guy behind bars already and having faith in their system. I mean, the Russians can't lecture some court battles and all that sort of thing when they have the most biased court system in the world, and they do everything for political gains at the moment, Charlie. So this is important. I think it's important that they bang this guy away for war crimes, and I suspect there'll be hundreds of other soldiers and people who took part in this as well that either will be dead, Charlie, or will be locked up for war crimes as well. So this is just the start, Charlie. There's going to be hundreds more going to probably jail and going getting banged behind bars for life for what they did, Charlie. But this is just the start, and there'll be hundreds more of it. And it's not surprising that would be the case, Charlie, as well. So, yeah, I think this is an important moment, Charlie. They're getting on with the task already, Ukraine, of jailing people as well and getting them behind bars. This is really important. This is necessary, Charlie, as well. And I expect we're going to see a lot more of this soon.
Yeah, and we've got the latest feed up from the war in Ukraine. Some news here that I'd like to share with you. So Ukraine has already won the battle for Kharkiv, the country's second largest city. The Institute for Study of War has said in its latest assessment conflict, Ukrainian forces prevented Russian troops from encircling, let alone seizing Kharkiv, and expelled them from around the city as they did Russian forces attempted to seize Kyiv, the US-based think tank said. The Ukrainians have also repelled multiple attempts by the Russians to cross a strategically significant river in the Donbass, inflicting heavy losses in the process. According to local officials and British intelligence, about 800 personnel at full strength from the failed effort to cross the Silversky Donets River, which was actually 12 miles west of Severodonetsk. That's 20 kilometers. Russia will suspend electricity supplies to Finland from 1 a.m. on Saturday. The supplier RAO Nordic said amid rising tensions with the Helsinki's bid to join NATO. President Putin, please do not boss Finland about. You're not leader of that country. As well as that, a Russian soldier has appeared in court accused of murdering an unarmed man on a bicycle at the start of a first war crime trial. That is the person, Vadim Shiromanian, a commander of the Katramilyava tank division, is charged with the premeditated murder of a 62-year-old man. The case is scheduled to resume on Wednesday. I remember that actually very well, watching that video of a tank shooting a person on a bicycle. Horrendous. Georgia's breakaway region of South Ossetia will hold a referendum on joining Russia on July the 17th. The region's leader, Anthony Bilbava, has announced. Obviously, that comes after Russia did invade Georgia in 2008 there as well. Now, interestingly, the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has spoke to his Russian counterpart, Sergei Shoigu, for the first time since the invasion. But the Pentagon said Austin urged immediate ceasefire in Ukraine and emphasized the importance of maintaining lines of communication. The Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby has said, obviously, Jen Psaki is no longer White House Press Secretary anymore. That has been changed. I'm sure Zach will update the listeners on who that will be in a minute. But Zach, what do you make to that latest developments in Ukraine at the moment?
On Kharkiv, Charlie, it looks like Ukraine have managed to keep that and force the Russians away, because Russian targets, one of the key targets of the eastern region, Charlie, of Ukraine for Russia was Kharkiv. That's the second largest city in Ukraine as well. And there's been a lot of around the suburb areas of Kharkiv. The Ukraine has launched counters there, and they took back pretty much all of the city now, Charlie, as well. So the Russia's been completely outmoved here at the moment, Charlie, as well. The Ukraine, as it says, well, they've been blowing up bridges, Charlie. I saw a bit of bridges as well being blown up as well, from some of the satellite images as well, Charlie. And they blew up multiple bridges as well, which is pretty good because that means the Russians can't cross them. They have to go another route, and it just delays their convoy even more, Charlie. That's incredibly important as well. So that means that's another delay in getting across, to try and get across and, try and get their troops around. It's difficult for them to really get their pace and get in positions, Charlie, because that just, when they get delayed, that just makes them even more vulnerable, because the Ukrainians can just push them back even more, and they can launch more. They're going back into the line of danger, Charlie, and get more targets on them. It's pretty bad for Russia overall as well. Obviously, with the reaction of Finland applying to join NATO, Russia's been giving them threats and everything like that, which really isn't going to be which sounds really hard and it sounds really chavvy, but the thing is, Charlie, they ain't really going to materialize. Finland are going to just do what they think is best, and Russia's going to dictate them around, really, to be fair, Charlie, around especially with the electricity supplies as well, Charlie. As well, President Biden has pretty much welcomed his support. Turkey president said they're sort of not soft towards it at the moment, but as I said, Charlie, I think they'll be persuaded eventually, as well. As you see, as said, the Russian has appeared in front of the court accusing of murdering a man on a bicycle, as well. South Austria is holding a referendum on July the 17th. This is probably one of those rigged illegal elections that they're going to hold. It probably yes vote, and they're in rigged some sort of way, as well, Charlie. But yeah, and there's also been new sanctions this week as well, especially like some Vladimir Putin's girlfriend as well by the UK government, or so-called girlfriend, should we say, as well. So there's been many more sanctions as well. Norway, Sweden, Finland have also declared joint declarations on cooperation, as well. And the US has spoken to the Russian defense counterpart for the first time, as well. It's obviously not a positive one, I can imagine as well. So a lot happened in Ukraine this week, Charlie. But I suppose it's been a good news week for Ukraine, a good news week for the likes of Sweden, Finland at the moment, Charlie. I think they'll be pretty pleased with the unity of what they've got at the moment.
Yeah, and Zach, the only thing that did concern me a bit, well, actually didn't concern me as much as I thought, but Putin did do a Victory Day parade on Monday and said that his country's troops were defending the motherland during that speech. However, I will say on this show tonight that the images of the president of Russia do look quite disturbing regarding his health, because there has been reports going around that Putin is gravely ill. He could have Parkinson's. He could have cancer. And there has been reports that Putin could potentially give up his leadership as the president of Russia and hand it over to someone else. Zach, what would you think if Putin was to go as the Russian president over health fears?
Yeah, these are obviously unconfirmed and not verified rumours, Charlie. So we can't say this is actually going to be the case, Charlie. But it'll be interesting to see if he's that ill and he's that mentally deranged at the moment that he's unable to function in the country and needs to hand over to somebody else. I don't think the relationship's going to improve anytime soon if that's going to still even the case, because it could be that there's more of a hard liner than Putin that takes over the country potentially as well. So I don't know in that instance what would happen. Would Putin need to be taken out? Or I think what would have to happen in Russia is a coup that needs to potentially happen, where their own people takes out the leader. I can't see that happening anytime soon potentially, but I could just see Putin just being replaced by himself and to another person. But I don't know who, Charlie. So all these reports about this, him being ill, mentally unfit, are unverified. But I don't know how much that really affects things in the short term, Charlie. It depends on who it is that takes over. It could be worse in the longer term if you think about it. But I don't know, Charlie. These are all rumors that seem to be going around, and it's just not possible to verify.
But you got to think that Sergei Lavrov is a hypocrite, as you know, with what he's coming out with over Hitler having Jewish blood. Then you had, what was it, Igor Khrushchev then talking about missiles being deployed and stuff being shot down. And the thing is that someone could take over and Putin and be much worse. And this is what I'm going to say on the show tonight. And I'm going to echo the words of Konstantin Kisin, who is a journalist originally from Russia. Ukraine have to win this war. They have to fight. That's what they got to do. The only way this ends is at the negotiating table with the Russian president, with everything. I think, to me, this war was unnecessary. It has cost so many lives. We've been cutting so many people down, which is horrifying to watch. The fact is that this war never needed to happen, all because of Vladimir Putin saying that Luhansk and Donetsk, both independent breakaway states, caused the whole country of Ukraine to be attacked in this dishonest way. I mean, Zach, the whole narrative of this invasion for obviously of Ukraine for Russia, it's been a total failure, hasn't it?
It's been an almighty strategic failure. Sorry, I can't pronounce that right. Overall try for Russia, not just in terms of what happened on the ground, but the overall implications of it. Because what Russia and Putin wanted was that the whole of Ukraine would be invaded within 48 hours, 72 hours, Charlie. They have the whole city, they have the whole country taken over. Russia would put still their puppet prime minister, who would do the Russia's bidding for him. Then they go after all the rest of them, and then they'll be happy ever after. The Soviet Union was recreated again, Charlie. It's nonsense. That was potentially going to happen, Charlie, because the Ukrainians have outstanding resistance to Russia, and what has happened, Charlie, is that NATO has been more united than ever. They're even the non-NATO line countries, Charlie, has basically said that we may even join NATO now because of the way that this has been a united front, the way that this has been dealt with, and we feel safer in it. You got to be doing something really bad, Charlie. If they had the likes of Sweden and Finland wanting to join NATO, and it's people supporting it as well. So Putin has done badly on the ground. He's done badly in the overall implications of it, Charlie. He's totally done a strategic blunder on the field and off it as well, Charlie. It's been a miserable failure for him, and it deservedly so.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So please comment down below, guys, what you make to the current situation in Ukraine. Do you think Russia should be held to account for their war crimes? Well, let's move on to the next part of the show. Now, I'm going to come on to the British news a bit later on because me and Zach last week forgot to talk about what's happening in the US regarding abortion. Now, there's been reports going around of, obviously, Walt Disney World introducing new laws on, say, LGBT people, and apparently there's been obviously laws that, I mean, the Florida government, actually, no, that's a separate story as well. That is a separate story. So, Zach, abortion protests in the US being huge at the moment. I mean, it's clear to me that the former President Donald Trump is not happy with the way this is being handled at the moment.
Well, let me explain what's happening in America at the moment, Charlie. There's been a big talking point in America for the last 2 or so weeks as well. So this started where Politico got the company, and well known for producing US playbook, London playbook. It's my morning reads, Charlie. Basically, Politico playbook. Politico got a leak from the Supreme Court, which is unprecedented, by the way, Charlie, that a potential draft decision was leaked to a news organization like Politico. They got hold of a leak which suggested that Roe v. Wade, which is the landmark abortion case in America that enshrined abortion rights into the law federally across the United States, would be overturned, and that there would be a majority to get it overturned, Charlie. This decision would totally overturn Roe v. Wade, which means that when it's overturned, the 25-week abortion right period, Charlie, would be ended, and it would go back to the individual states, Charlie, to decide how they would deal with the laws on abortion. This had prompted huge protests, this leak in Charlie, because number one, it's not just about the leak, it's about the implications about it as well, Charlie. It could be that women's rights has to be decided locally rather than nationally for the first time. And you have the likes in Texas where you have an abortion ban after 4-6 weeks, Charlie. In Oklahoma passed new extreme abortion laws. Florida was about to do the same potentially as well, Charlie. And it's not just those who are passing abortion laws as well. There's also states in America that have trigger laws, which means that if, say, Roe v. Wade is overturned, it would mean their laws would be if Roe v. Wade is overturned, abortion could be totally banned with no exception for being raped or having incest with your family at all. So it's a shocking development, Charlie, and it's a complete downgrade of women's rights overall in the United States, Charlie, overall. So it's a terrible situation that the United States are found in, where 6 Supreme Court judges will influence women's rights in America. And this will probably be a key talking point, Charlie, when they come to the US election, the midterm elections in November, where we're expecting a final decision on this, on Roe v. Wade, Charlie, the overturning, because this is a draft. So this is not the final decision, Charlie. I'm going to put this light on because there's a lot of flashing lights in here. But this is not a final decision, Charlie. Overall, this is a draft, and it's not the final decision. So the final decision could be different in June when this gets ruled on, Charlie. But at the moment, from what the media is reporting, it is unlikely to change at the moment. It looks like it will be a 5-4 vote to overturn Roe v. Wade totally, with reporting saying that the Chief Justice, who is conservative, John Roberts, may side with the Liberals. Now, John Roberts, Charlie, wants a compromise. So he's saying, from what the reporting is saying, he wants to keep Roe v. Wade, but reduce the period from 25, I think, to 15, 16 weeks potentially. So keep the law, but reduce the period that the time a woman can have an abortion from, without, and he would keep the rape and incest exception, Charlie. So it's not a final decision, but it's likely next month or the month before, after that, Roe v. Wade could be overturned in America, and this will be on the minds. Now, conservatives have reacted by saying that they're more concerned with the leak of the decision, because this has been leaked, Charlie. It's unprecedented that a draft decision would leak. There's now an investigation started on that. The more the Democratic side have been focusing on the fact that women's rights are about to be overturned. They did hold a vote this week in the Senate, Charlie, on codifying, basically putting Roe v. Wade into law rather than going by constitutional exceptions. But that failed in the Senate by 49 to 51, and you need 60 votes to pass legislation without it being filibustered, Charlie. So, yeah, that's going to be failing. And it's more likely not that it's going to rely on voters in November to decide whether they want pro-life or pro-choice electives in the House and the Senate, or on the local level as well, Charlie. That will be determining whether Roe v. Wade is going to get enshrined into law or not, or whether we're going to see the total overturn on it.
Yeah, this reminds me of how the suffragettes used to vote. Remember getting women to vote, all that kind of stuff. The movement of, say, the early 1900s, with all the suffragettes coming out to vote. This reminds me of this a little bit, but in a way, if women's rights are being taken, I mean, it's interesting what you make of this. Please comment down below. And before we move on, I'm going to play for you a quick video of what the US media have had to say on this. This report is from ABC News. Have a listen to this.
Capitol Hill at this hour and the showdown across this country over abortion. Tonight, efforts by Democrats in the Senate to begin the process of protecting Roe versus Wade with a federal law failing. Republicans blocking them, along with a Democratic senator. The Democrats knew they didn't have the numbers, but they wanted every senator on the record on this. Rachel Scott on the Hill tonight.
Tonight, Democrats forcing a vote to safeguard abortion rights.
All of us will have to answer for this vote for the rest of our time in public office.
With the Supreme Court likely to overturn Roe versus Wade, Democrats say it's just the beginning.
They are coming after your birth control. They are coming after Plan B and IUDs. And right here in the Senate, they are talking about a federal abortion ban, a federal abortion ban.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell recently said it is possible Republicans could pass a federal abortion ban if they win back Congress. Today, he called the Democrats' bill radical.
This bill would take us to an even more extreme and darker place.
The bill would make abortion rights outlined in Roe versus Wade federal law. It would also override state laws banning abortion before 24 weeks and abolish state restrictions like mandatory ultrasounds and waiting periods. Those provisions convincing Democratic Senator Joe Manchin to join every single Republican in voting no.
It wipes 500 state laws off the books. It expands abortion. And with that, that's not where we are today.
The motion is not agreed to.
Tonight, with Vice President Kamala Harris presiding, the Democrats' bill defeated.
Let's get to Rachel Scott live on the Hill tonight. Rachel.
Thank you there to the latest reports there from the US abortion news there. And we'll keep you updated on that on the show as well. Mitch McConnell also, by the way, did visit Ukraine with Volodymyr Zelensky earlier on today, I believe. So more on that will be on later in the show. Now it's time for the latest sports news now. The sport briefing segment now launches of my show, the Charlie Tolhurst Show live on YouTube tonight. If you're tuning in from around the world on YouTube, this is the part of the show where we talk all about sports news. Now, I'm going to start with Formula One. Now, Lewis Hamilton has said that he is refusing to back down on the race of banning jewellery in Formula One. Now, the FIA have announced that drivers really should race without jewellery on. However, though, Lewis Hamilton is defending wearing jewellery in the car. This could prompt the Brits from potentially being banned from future events, such as, by what I'm hearing on sources, the Monaco Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton could face his F1 future being pretty much in trouble if this law came in. Zach, what do you make to this news?
I think it's a ridiculous hill to die on, quite frankly, Charlie. Now, the reason why the FIA introduced this jewellery ban, I think it's more of a safety measure, Charlie, to make sure that if a car catches fire, for example, like Roman Grosjean's did and got into a massive ball of flame, that the flames wouldn't go through the jewellery and therefore set another bit of light to their car and therefore burn the skin of a driver even more. Because, as you know, some of them are very, magnetic, sensitive to heat and everything like that, Charlie, and can melt away. So if it sets on fire, that causes serious harms to your body, Charlie. So I think that's what the FIA are trying to say with this. Now, it prompted some reaction because Lewis Hamilton does wear a lot of jewellery as well, Charlie. You see him wearing earpieces everywhere, Charlie. You see it on his hand. You'll see, he got all these watches here and everything like that. One here, and you got something like earpieces here as well.
Yeah.
I'll probably put my earphones and everything like that as well, Charlie. It probably fights down here as well, and it's all over the body basically. He's got jewelry on him, as well that is stuck to him. He doesn't take it off. It's literally stuck to him, Charlie. And in that case, now he sort of disagrees with this rule change, Charlie, because he thinks it's a waste of time. As not what the FIA should be focusing on. Now, I believe he's been given an exception for some races for some of his jewelry, but he's been told to take some of it off for the rest of the races from Monaco onwards, Charlie. Now, there's no unconfirmed reporting that's saying that he may boycott some of these races and all that sort of thing. But if that's the case, Charlie, then it's ridiculous hill to die on, quite frankly, in my honest opinion. It's not something that he really should be boycotting on. I think, if that was me, I'd just take it on the chin and get on with it, really. It's a silly rule, but it is what it is, Charlie. So I don't agree with the idea that you boycott because you over a bit of jewellery. I mean, of course, it's important to him, but I think it's a silly hill to die on. And I think he should just do what he's asked and go racing. If there are exceptions that he can't get off and he gets approved from the FIA to do them, then that's absolutely fine. No problems, Charlie. But I don't. Apart from that, it's a bit silly that the FIA are trying to fight this in this instance. But unfortunately, they're doing what they are doing. It's a bit of a silly fight to have with, but it should be really followed. And at the end of the day, I think it's a ridiculous rule change, but I can understand, but it's also a bit ridiculous at the same time, Charlie. So I think for now, I think it's a bit of a silly hill to die on if this was boycotted by Lewis Hamilton, but I also think it's also an unnecessary change as well from the FIA that doesn't really need the attention that it deserves.
And now, obviously, I know this isn't really sport news, but Sebastian Vettel is an F1 driver who races for Aston Martin. Now, on Thursday, he made an appearance on Question Time to talk about issues regarding LGBT rights and calling Brexit basically pointless for Germans, saying that he didn't understand the whole Brexit situation. Now, Zach, what did you make of his appearance on Question Time?
I thought it was very good, Charlie. I have to say, it was very surprising he went on it in the first place. And he did. You could tell he didn't have all the knowledge necessary, Charlie. But he was clearly knowledgeable in some ways, like energy, for example, where he said he relied too much on Russia. Germany relied too much on Russia. Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. As well, and then he's moved to phase out as well. But he also talked about things like, if you've done Brexit, you've got to own it. And he obviously doesn't know too much about it. I mean, bless him. He's focused more on F1 racing and all that sort of thing. But he clearly had good answers, I thought, Charlie. He communicated well. And, he clearly had a dig at some people, like Brexit for one. He clearly had a dig at Boris for another, where with all the Partygate stuff at the moment. So it was a good appearance, I thought, Charlie. A very good appearance. He was knowledgeable in the environmental and energy sectors bits. Obviously not as knowledgeable in the rest, but he really enjoyed being there by the looks of it, Charlie, and he enjoyed being part of the panel.
Yeah, and Sebastian Vettel will be back racing next weekend when they go to Catalonia for the Spanish Grand Prix. As well, now we're going to move on to the actual motorsport action today. Now, Formula E did race today in Berlin, I believe. I think race one has completed. Do apologise that I didn't watch the race today, but I will catch up with the race later on this evening on YouTube. But I have the results up here for you guys right now. And it was Eduardo Mortara who claimed victory in this race. What did you make to this Formula E Berlin E-Prix race?
Yeah, it was an exciting race. Just a bit of breaking news, by the way, Charlie. McLaren have announced they're going to join Formula E next season as well. Just in the last few minutes confirmed that they will be joining Formula E next season when the Generation 3 cars get underway, Charlie. So just a little bit of breaking news there whilst we were speaking. That's pretty good news, Charlie, I think, as well. It's great to see McLaren enter Formula E for next season. But to the E-Prix itself, Charlie, Eduardo Mortara started where he finished, basically, and that was pole position. He started on pole, Charlie. He finished the race on pole. It was not the most exciting race in the world, but he started there as well. And he won the race in first position as well. He managed to fend off John Verne and Stoffel Van Dorn. Mortara questionably had a late use of attack mode, and we all sort of questioned, wondering how long he was going to wait to it, and because of the fact that it was Verne and Van Dorn used attack mode before him, and it looks like Mortara was waiting. But in fairness,
yeah. Well, we do have just had a bit of a glitch there, guys. I don't know what happened there. There was a bit of a delay or something. Oh, sorry, guys. We are having some technical difficulties.
I don't know
at the moment.
I'm back.
Oh, Zach did some technical difficulties there. I do apologise, guys. Right, let's continue on with the show.
Yeah, my internet decided to go during the middle whilst I was chatting to Charlie. But yeah, what I was saying is Mortara managed to fend off Verne, Van Dorn, and Lotterer because Verne, Van Dorn, and Lotterer and Mitch Evans managed to get into a scrap of their own towards the end of the race, and that allowed Mortara to basically run away with it. So he started on pole, he won the race, and he got 28 points, Charlie, because he managed to get pole position 3 points as well. So he got 28 points ahead of John Verne, who just managed to finish ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. That was a very late Charleston Van Dorn on the last lap as well, but didn't get ahead of him. Andrea Lotterer, also in the chasing pack, finished 4th as well. Mitch Evans 5th. Verline finished where he started on 6th. Sam Bird managed to walk his way from 15th to 7th. Antonio Felix Costa, poor race for him, finished in 8th. And the same could be said for Alexander Sims, who was 9th. Nick De Vries managed to complete Mercedes round up in the top 10 as well. And it was Oliver Rowe in 11th, Robin Fights in 12th, Jake Dennis in 13th, Boemi in 14th, Oliver Askin in 15th, Oliver Turkey 16th, Sergio Cesar Cameron 17th, Maxim Gunter is 18th, Dan Tick 19th, Giovinazzi 20th. Nick Cassidy and Lucas de Grassi did not make it to the finish of the race, and they had they broke down, unfortunately, Charlie. So they had problems as well. So they finished 21st and 22nd as well. And there's another race tomorrow, Charlie, as well, because this is a double header. Berlin race tomorrow is going to be done the opposite direction, Charlie. Yeah. So when they race today, they're going to go in reverse and do it that way, which will be interesting to watch. Nevertheless, Charlie, that race is at, I believe, at 2 p.m. UK time tomorrow as well, Charlie. But what it means for the driver's standings heading to tomorrow is that Van Dorn has a 3-point lead ahead of Jonathan Verne, and with Mitch Evans in 3rd place and Mortara 19 points behind in 4th position as well from Van Dorn, and Robin Fights in 5th position. So that's the top 5. Race 2 is tomorrow, Charlie, on the reverse section of the circuit.
Yeah, if you remember a couple of years ago, 2020, they did actually do some different configurations for Tempelhof Airport as well when the final season finale was held there. So, yeah, it is usually the season finale at Berlin, but they have moved it to the mid-season this year. So, very cool indeed. Now, moving on to NASCAR, the Cup Series event. Just to let you know, guys, the latest NASCAR action isn't actually available right now, because actually the current action for the NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas isn't actually announced. Qualifying hasn't been updated yet, according to this graphic, but we do have the results in from the Goodyear 400 at Darlington. Joey Logano winning the race in the number 22 Ford. Tyler Reddick was second in the number 8 Chevrolet. Justin Haley was third in the number 31 Chevrolet. Kevin Harvick fourth in the number 4 Ford Mustang. Chase Elliott fifth in the number 9 Camaro, which was Chevrolet Camaro, of course, with Hendrick Motorsport. Chris Bell sixth in the number 20 Toyota. Michael McDowell seventh in the number 34 Ford. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. eighth in the number 47 Chevrolet. Austin Dillon ninth in the number 3 Chevrolet, and Daniel Suarez completing the top 10 in the 99 Chevrolet. But Zach, Joey Logano winning a race in a pretty bizarre last lap.
Yeah, he took out the leader at the time. Charlie, he took out the leader with 1 lap to go, put him in the wall, and he won the race pretty easily from that way. A lot of controversy the way he won that race as well. But yeah, I thought it was an unnecessary crash, and I think Logano was to blame for that. Unfortunately, he could have finished in second had it not been for the little shunt that he had. But yeah, he did win the race by taking him out. So it was a bit of a wild race at the towards the end, Charlie. As well, I think it's William Byron. Was it Byron he took out? I can't remember, Charlie.
I think it might have been. Yes, I think it was William Byron who got hit. Actually, yeah, it was William Byron.
Yeah, so he took him out on the last lap. Tyler Reddick managed. All those behind William Byron managed to make his way up. So it was Tyler Reddick in second, Justin Haley third, Harvick in fourth, Chase Elliott fifth, Christopher sixth, Michael McDowell seventh, Stenhouse eighth, Austin Dillon ninth, and Daniel Suarez in 10th position, Charlie, as well. Obviously, we're racing at Kansas this week. They've not had qualifying yet. The truck race is tonight at midnight, I believe. Oh, is it 1 a.m.? It's 1 a.m. Joe Nemechek is on the pole for that one. Chase Helm is in second. Ty Majeski is third. Zane Smith is fourth as well. And the 52 Friedstein is fifth. Smith is sixth. Ryan Beast is seventh. I can't remember half these names, Charlie, because they're all short pronunciations as well. Tyler Gray's ninth, Matt Crafton's 10th. So that's the truck race tonight as well. No Xfinity race this weekend, by the way, as well, Charlie. It's just truck and cup racing this weekend as well. That we have not had qualifying yet for the cup race. That'll be, I believe, later on whilst we're all off, and then we'll give you updates next week as well, Charlie, when that's all happened. So yeah. That's the situation at Kansas at the moment.
What we do have news on, though, is IndyCar, because I believe there is a delay to the GMR Grand Prix.
I haven't been watching it, Charlie. But there has there was a delay, Charlie, because there's been lightning and storm was in the Indianapolis area, Charlie. It will run for 85 laps or 2 hours. So there's a 2-hour time limit on this, Charlie. It's a wet start. All teams will be starting the wet tires, by the way, Charlie, as well. That's the situation at the moment. I do not know if there's any live timers at the moment, Charlie. They did actually move the start time, Charlie, to by 1:05 to 6 p.m. Local, which was supposed to be at 8:30, but they moved it to 6 p.m. local, the start time. But obviously the rain has affected the area, Charlie, as well. So, and therefore, at the moment, Charlie, I don't think there's a race. And they are actually racing, Charlie, at the moment now. So obviously the rain has cleared out the area, Charlie, right now. So if we can get the live timings up somehow. Obviously, I'm not watching this because I've got Eurovision on, unfortunately. So that's a shame at the moment. I can't watch it. But yes, it's been a bit of a disruptive race at the moment. Let's see if I can get the live time. All right, Colton Herta that is leading at the moment, Charlie, ahead of Pato Award ahead of Felix Roediger, ahead of Takuma Sato, just moved up to 4th position, ahead of Will Power, ahead of Alexander Rossi, 7th is Jack Harvey, Scott McLaughlin is 8th, Roman Grosjean 9th, Callum Eilert is in 10th. At the moment, they have done 22 laps. They are under caution at the moment due to an incident, Charlie, between, I think it's Joseph Newgarden as well. So they are under caution at the moment, Charlie. There's just been a caution announced. There's a yellow flag, but Colton Herta is currently leading the race just by looking at the live times at the moment, Charlie.
Yeah, and that's all your sports news this week. And more updates on IndyCar next week regarding the winner of the GMR Grand Prix. The Indy 500 is back at the end of June. I think, well, actually May 29th is Indy 500 day. More on that coming up later in the week. Now, moving on to Charlie's good news this week. Now, obviously, Eurovision is this week. So I thought we'll do a bit of a Eurovision special with the winner announcement next week on the show. Now, Eurovision is held this week in Turin this year. It is actually currently on at the moment. But Eurovision is one of the biggest music festivals of the year. It's a competition where several artists around the world take part, representing different countries, for the chance to win a huge prize. Now, last year's winner was, of course, Maneskin with their song Zitti I Barini. If you heard of a bit of a rock tune, you'll love that song because it actually was out on the charts. Maneskin winning that show last year as well. But this year, the participants are huge, and we are going to see Britain this year being represented by a huge artist there coming up on the show this year. I believe it is Sam
Ryder. Sam Ryder,
yes. Sam Ryder.
Yes, and from what the speculation is, Charlie, and keep in mind this is speculation because we've done so badly in Eurovision for many years now. It's incredible. But this could be our best opportunity to get some good performance in yet with Sam Ryder, Charlie. He's a big TikTok star. And obviously, don't use TikTok, then you probably, well, where have you been, Charlie? In other words, TikTok is widely used to do little performances and feelings as well, Charlie. We're currently on song 15 at the moment. I'm just watching as well. It's Azerbaijan that's performance at the moment. This is it is Fade to Black by Nadia Rustimental, and Belgium will come up after us as well, and then Greece. We are performing 20 seconds where Sam Ryder is with Spaceman. I've heard the song. It's a very good song, Charlie. As well, Ukraine, as you can see, is in this well. They could get a lot of votes this evening, Ukraine, this evening, just for the sympathy vote, I would say, Charlie. I'm not trying to be rude by saying that, but it could get a sympathy vote. But Sam Ryder has been, odds this year, have been very good, Charlie. We could have our best performance yet. I'm hopefully not going to sugarcoat that when I say that, because it's possible we could come last like we did last year again, because we're so useless in Eurovision and they all seem to vote against us. But Sam Ryder seems to have had a good song. He has expectations are high, Charlie. So he will be performing soon. And yeah, there's been some favourites, the likes of Sweden, Italy, Spain. Spain, actually, sorry. I should say Spain, Sweden. One of my favourites is Norway. They've got a Dancing Bananas, Charlie, on stage. Would you believe it or not? I just found the performance ironic. This Eurovision is just home to some ironic performances, Charlie. And one of them, I think, the most ironic is Norway. It's just been, I can't get this sight around a dancing banana on the stage, Charlie. And then there was another one, I think, on the semi-final one, Charlie, where they were talking about eating your salads and your vegetables or something like that, Charlie. It was on the semi-final one. It was quite surprising. I can't remember which country did that at the end of the day, but it was a funny little song at the moment. It was a really funny little song, Charlie. As well. I can't remember. Oh, it was Latvia. It was an artist called
Latvia.
Zeni, and it was called Eat Your Salad. It was an amusing song about how it's healthy to eat your salad. I mean, only in Eurovision would you sing about that, Charlie. It was amusing. A shame it didn't go through at the end of the day, Charlie. But the Norway one, that one I really like, is by an artist called Subwoofer, and it's called "Give That Wolf a Banana." That I cannot believe people actually sing about this stuff and have the imagination to sing about it. I mean, it's better than some of the songs you sit here in modern music today, because it's all about sex, drugs, nudity, shaking your booty and everything like that, and just sexual thought. Then when Norway, they do things like give a wolf a banana. It's just thoroughly amusing, Charlie. It's honestly one of the best things of the year. And we're on Soccer 60 now. Belgium's now performing, Charlie. Honestly, it's such a joy to watch. And I'm sure it's just joy. Whatever happens tonight, it's a party just to watch Eurovision every single year and see what they come out with, because it's just brilliant.
Yeah. Now, whilst we're here, guys, and before I move on to the next part of the show, I am going to play a little bit of the UK entrant this year, which is Sam Ryder and Spaceman. This isn't going to be the whole song. This is just going to be the first part of the song. Have a listen to what you'd be expecting to hear tonight. Have a listen to this.
And a broken heart to someone else down there. I would be the center of my lonely universe, but I'm only human, and I'm crashing in the dark. I'm up in space now. Up in space now. I searched around the universe, been down some black holes. There's nothing but space, and I wanna go home.
Thank you there to Sam Ryder for that Eurovision song there. You can watch more of that later on in Eurovision. I thought I'd play a little excerpt there from the song. Zach, what did you make of that song by Sam Ryder?
It's a good entry, Charlie. It's one of the most potentials for years. I mean, we've bought some different songs, but they've not really stuck with the public or the jury. So this could be a year, Charlie, potentially. We don't know. If we've got to have a good performance first, we need to perform. But, you know, I'm very interested, Charlie, in this song. It's a good song. And hopefully, fingers crossed to Sam, he'll outperform what we've put out for many years, Charlie.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's hope, guys, we can get that on as well. Now, also as well, I thought I should share some more good news tonight very quickly before we move on to the papers, because, of course, we're coming towards the end of Britain's Got Talent's live shows. A quick little sneak peek at the winners of some of the previous series of Britain's Got Talent that I thought I'd share with you guys. Now, Britain's Got Talent is a talent show created by Simon Cowell in 2007. The show looks to find the best talent across the country. It's hosted by Anton Deck, and of course features a theme song that's probably stuck in my head throughout the rest of today. Trust me, I have been listening to that theme song a lot tonight, because I want to give you guys a big task. At the end of the show, I will test you guys on one BGT question. The question I'm going to ask you guys tonight on Britain's Got Talent is a big one. The question I'm going to ask you is this. What was the name? Okay, here's the question, guys. And it's going to be a huge one. Which dance group won Britain's Got Talent in 2010? Which act won Britain's Got Talent in 2010? I've given you a clue already, because it was a dance group. Please do not say we will reveal the answer at the end of the show tonight. That is Charlie's good news. And we will be reviewing more of that next week. The answer for that question will be revealed at the end of the show. Time for a look at the papers now. We might not have spoken much about what was on the news regarding UK, but there are plenty of news papers that have came out already, and we have some papers that we're going to be reviewing for you. Like let's get on with them.
Saturday papers are out, but not only one of the Sunday papers are out, so we'll probably read the Saturday papers if we...
Let's go with tonight's papers. So the Prime Minister says working from home doesn't work. Well, Boris Johnson admits that working from home is pretty much useless, given that the government instructed people to work from home during the coronavirus pandemic. The Guardian goes, the golden era of cheap food is over, household is told. That comes as a warning from Sainsbury's boss Justin King, who said the golden era of cheap food is over. The Times goes, for Education Secretary Nadine Zahawi has told the Times that Britain should not tilt the system to make people from state schools are admitted to Oxbridge. The Sun goes for top story, Prince William presenting cancer campaign, Deborah James with a Dame in a day debts. The Daily Telegraph goes, Jacob Rees-Mogg's war on 3-day week for the civil service. The civil servants work from home more often than be in the office. The Daily Express goes, Prime Minister scraps a ban on cheap food after a revolt. The Daily Star goes for the second is coming. Tractor Paul MP tosses his hat back into a ring. Is that to do with Lee Anderson, I wonder? Probably not. And the Financial Times goes with leads the week with Elon Musk is putting his Twitter takeover temper on hold over concerns a number of spam fake accounts on the platform. The Daily Mirror goes for Colleen split up. Rooney tells court marriage troubles of Wayne's arrest. What do you make of the latest news, Zach, on the latest?
Yeah, let's start off with the first headline, which is, I believe, the Mail headline. I have to say the state of this, Charlie. First of all, PM has done an interview to the Daily Mail, or should I say the Fail, a paper that's been campaigning for people not to work from home, probably because they've got expensive landlords that are probably own the Daily Mail and everything like that. They've done an interview with the Prime Minister who basically said that he doesn't like working from home, very interestingly as well, Charlie. And I think he did an interview. Let me go and find this, Charlie, the actual quotes he used on work from home culture. I've got it up here. He says here, he said to the Mail, you spend awful lot of time making another cup of coffee, getting up, walking very slowly to the fridge, hacking off a small piece of cheese, then walking very slowly back, and then forgetting what it was you're doing. That is how he described working from home. I have to say, in reply to that, what an incredibly out of touch, arrogant man he is. It's a clear, Charlie, throughout the pandemic, a lot of companies did work from home. And some of it, for some of the companies, Charlie, it's made their productivity better. The whole thing's better for overall experience, Charlie. And actually, some of them have actually moved to permanent work from home. So for a guy that, the Prime Minister, for a guy that actually works from home,
and spends time hiding in a fridge.
Yeah, he's actually, the thing is, Charlie, what he gets about what he said, Charlie, is that he's lecturing us about working from home and going back to the office, yet he literally works from a home. His actual home, Charlie, is number 10 Downing Street. He's working from it. That is his home. So he is working from home, and he's lecturing us about working from home, not working from home. I get he's trying to appease his Tory landlords that are probably run out of money because they've not got the office space, Charlie, as well. And then they've obviously got being run on and horse ridden by Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Minister for Efficiencies, which he doesn't sound very efficient by the sound of it, Charlie, based on his attitude to working from home as well. It's just such an own goal to be lecturing people. It's just so out of touch. And just so silly for him to be lecturing us about working from home on a paper that actually literally works from literally has offices, Charlie, that are probably owned by landlords. And they've actually hired a writer there, Charlie, that actually works from home whilst lecturing for us on working from home. So, yeah, you say to do something else as well. That's just, typical Daily Mail there. Front page. The Guardian gone front page. Let's go to that now, Charlie. As well, they're going about the golden year of cheap food is over. They're kind of warning from Sainsbury's boss Justin King, who said the golden year of cheap food is over because obviously inflation has been rising, Charlie. It's going to get worse, unfortunately. Food prices have been going up as well, Charlie. So the era of cheap food is probably over for now, Charlie, no doubt about it. Which is probably why you'll see the likes of people moving to Aldi and Lidl, because Sainsbury's is not exactly the most cheapest supermarket you can get, as well. And people are just cutting down on what they buy it in food, Charlie, because it's just so expensive these days. Not surprising that the golden era of cheap food is over. The Times goes on the fact that Nadine Zahawi, the education secretary, has talked about the need for private schools, Charlie, as well. And he's support of private schools. He's saying that Britain should not tilt this to make sure more people from state schools are admitted to Oxbridge. He's talking about the Eton more, so presumably he's talking about more Etons then and Oxfordshires then in those who can, rich people who can actually afford it. You probably get, it's weird because private school gives you the most dumbest of people in the planet, I think, Charlie, and they don't deserve to be profiting off the system, I'm afraid, Charlie, on that one. The Sun have gone for a good story. They've gone on the cancer campaign of Deborah James. She has been given a representative of damehood, Charlie, for her services as well. She's the professor of London School as well, Charlie. She is a cancer survivor at the moment, Charlie. But unfortunately, her cancer has returned at the moment. And she does a podcast as well. She does a show on BBC called You, Me, and the Big C, where she talks to other people about their cancer experiences. Because of her work and because of her courage and survival, she's been given a damehood, Charlie, which is just fantastic news. You can see there Prince William giving her the honour as well. It's just fantastic what she's done, the service as well. She's raised more than £5 million since she received an end-of-life care for bowel cancer as well, Charlie. As well, it's just incredible amount of support that she's getting as well. It's sensational. The Daily Telegraph has gone on Jacob Rees-Mogg, also going to do another war from working from home as well, Charlie. He's told the Daily Telegraph that civil servants are working from home Mondays and Fridays because they think the working week is shorter than it really is. Well, I always thought sometimes that Friday could be part of the weekend, but certainly not Monday, Charlie. I think this attitude to the civil service is snobbish and disgusting, quite frankly, Charlie. They want to cut civil service, by the way, to pre-2016 levels. So that means taking away 90,000 jobs, Charlie, potentially in the civil service. That's a good idea during the minimum cost of living crisis, just to make a load of people redundant, really, quite frankly, Charlie. Well done. They're great things for people in government. They're really fabulous. The Daily Express has gone from the fact that the Prime Minister has scrapped to ban cheap deals and healthy foods in a bid to help struggling families, Charlie. He's decided to scrap the plans to cause 2-to-1 deal to basically ease the cost of living squeeze, Charlie. It's basically the war against fats, basically, what he's trying to aim for here. It appears to be some sort of backlash against it, so he's dropped it. That presumably means it's never going to come into effect. It keeps getting delayed every single year, Charlie. The Daily Star has gone for this. The Daily Star reports that with their humorous way, that Neil Parish, who was caught watching porn in the House of Commons, saying that he may stand for re-election. Come on, man. If that's so that you can watch more porn in the House of Commons, then go and do your job at home, because you seem to be better off fingering yourself and using your hands better on yourself whilst at home, Charlie. They're gone with the headline, the second coming. Oops, no reference to what that could be there, Charlie. Tractor Paul MP tosses his hat back into the ring. Lots of sexual references on the front page of the Daily Star there as well today with Neil Parish. Probably not surprising there. The FT weekend as well goes for Elon Musk, because he's put his £44 billion Twitter deal on hold over spam bots, basically. One of these key aims that Elon Musk wants to do, Charlie, is that he wants to get rid of spam bots, basically. But there's been a new report this week out, Charlie, statistically, that's saying that only 5% of users on Twitter actually are spam bots, Charlie. So, yeah, it's not actually working for Elon Musk there. I'm surprised if the deal just falls just because of that. But it was a bit strange, but that's what's happened. I mean, he's put his deal on hold because of spam bot statistics.
Yeah.
Bit strange, but there we go. Let's look at the Mirror.
I would actually I think that was a Mirror is the last one, yeah.
Yeah, go on, Charlie. I was going to go on.
I was just going to say that the bottom headline of the Financial Times. There's been a lot of talk about the Northern Ireland Protocol because Sinn Féin are now being elected into the Northern Ireland Assembly.
So let me just tell you what happened yesterday, Charlie, because I think it's important you want to tell you what happened. The DUP decided not to elect a speaker to the Northern Ireland Assembly yesterday, which means that the Northern Ireland Assembly cannot function. This is one of their methods to protest the Northern Ireland Protocol. So that means there's no Northern Ireland Assembly now. They have to have 6 months to get it up and running, Charlie, or they're going to face another election. Charlie, potentially within 6 months. It's the DUP holding society to ransom again in Northern Ireland. And next week, Charlie, is a very big week because the government could be preparing legislation to tear up the protocol, and so that some of the checks are removed, and that some of the EU, some of the laws are not subject to the European Courts of Human Rights or European Courts of Justice potentially as well. This is also going on the fact that a Trump administration lawyer had advised the UK of tearing up the Northern Ireland Protocol. So if you've got someone in front of Donald Trump, Charlie, in charge, then you know they're going to probably come out with a load of old tosh potentially. But this is a battle they're going to be preparing with the European Union next week, Charlie, and it's one to look out for. Could be one of the big stories next week. But yeah, certainly not a good idea to get the Trumpians involved, I think, in this situation as well. And the Daily Mirror goes on the Wagatha Christie battle, Charlie, between Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy. There's been a libel case going on as well. Wayne Rooney has testified in court about his marriage troubles after he got arrested, Charlie, for assault. I think it was that he got done for as well. So yeah, it's I've not been following Wagatha Christie, Charlie, very much. It's a libel trial, and it's not very that interesting as well, Charlie. I've not really been following it that much. I think it's a bit of the old-fashioned entertainment as well. There's one paper out tomorrow, Charlie. At the moment, only one paper out for tomorrow. They go on the fact that Boris Johnson has fallen £240 million short of the net zero strategy, Charlie. They've said there's been not enough spending necessarily committed and targeted to meet the targets at the moment, Charlie. At the moment, they've also gone on the fact that Liverpool won the FA Cup today on penalties, just like they did in the Carabao Cup a couple of months ago as well. But yeah, but that's all the front pages for tomorrow at the moment, Charlie. We'll get more later tonight as well.
Yep, they're all the papers and plenty of them to review. That is the papers on the Charlie Tolhurst Show this week. Now it's time for the Great British Star and Red Devils of the week. And Zach, I'm going to start with your nominations for the Great British Star and Red Devil this week.
Yes, Charlie. My British Star this week, I will find it somewhere. Here we go. I'm going to give the British Star this week to Deborah James, Charlie, the cancer survivor and campaigner, for getting her damehood as well. She's done a phenomenal job with her podcast and the fundraising out of this world, Charlie. It's been an incredible job that she has done. She's a true patriot. She's a true woman with courage. Her experiences have been heartbreaking, but very true. Charlie, she wrote on the 9th of May, the tweet I never wanted to write. This time has come to say goodbye. 5 years to prepare doesn't make it any easier. I'm in the hospice at home care, and I'm spending my time surrounding my family. Please buy me a drink to see me out and raise vital funds. So she's cleaning her last phases, Charlie. But the support that she's been given is quite sensational as she goes through the final stages of bowel cancer. It's a bit of a shame what's happening at the moment with her. But honestly, she's a woman with courage, and she's done so much good things as well. She's an amazing woman, and she deserves the Great British Star this week, Charlie, no doubt by a mile and a half. The Red Devil this week, Charlie, goes pretty easily to the people in Russia, Vladimir Putin, for his strategic misblunder of underestimating NATO, Charlie, Sweden and Finland as well. I've actually got two of them, by the way. I'm going to tell you the second in a minute, but Finland's has obviously applied for NATO this week, Charlie. Completely rocking over Vladimir Putin's strategic thinking. It's a big own goal for Russia, and it continues to be as well, Charlie. So he gets the Red Devil this week as well. The second Red Devil I'm going to give as well, Charlie, is to North Korea and Kim Jong-un, because suddenly, throughout the miracle, Charlie, COVID has come to their country. They've recorded 180,000 cases of COVID within 4 days. And they've locked down after one case, Charlie. Kim Jong-un's now been caught wearing masks out in public whilst meeting his people. He's also tested 3 intercontinental ballistic missiles as well, Charlie.
Oh,
so missiles, again, COVID, and locking down the country. He deserves the Red Devil as well, Charlie, for complete and it's gone titter-tatters. North Korea providing the comedy of the week. How to do things totally wrong as well, Charlie.
Yeah, you're launching your intercontinental ballistic missile pretty much mirrors what Putin wants to do in Ukraine, in Russia. God, let alone Russian state media reporting all this nonsense. There you go. My nominations this week. One nomination I am going to give it to is Lee Anderson for a row over food banks. Lee Anderson should tell other people, that MPs, to use food banks in general. It was an interesting row this week. Lee Anderson gets my nomination. Also, a nomination goes to these two people here. You might know who they are because I'm about to tell you now. It is actually going to be Britain's favourite TV duo, Ant and Dec, get my nomination this week. Now, the reason Ant and Dec get my nomination is for this. Now, if you've seen on TikTok, Ant and Dec have been filming this cringeworthy video of Ant McPartlin sharing a video of Declan Donnelly seemingly crying whilst sat at a computer. I have to say, this actually looks quite funny, if I'm honest with you. Like, I don't know, I wonder how someone got that filter up as well. But yeah, that was an interesting pick. But obviously, those two though did also win a BAFTA the other day. And also, Ant and Dec have also launched Proper Happy, their first children's book, which Proper Happy Past the Positivity, which is now expected to release on the 26th of May. It will be available on Google Play Books for you to watch and will be around $4.99 in Google or on Amazon and in WH Smith's. I have to say that book does look pretty cool. Ant and Dec get my nomination this week for the Great British Start and Red Devil. That's them two there pictured with their children's book, Proper Happy, as well. Now, another nomination for the Star goes to Loughborough-based artist who recorded a charity for Equality Action release for Single for Mental Health Awareness Week. Now, obviously, last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. And this artist I'm going to quickly mention is artist Lucky C, who's a Loughborough-based unionist, provided vocals for a track alongside local youth group. The single was released on May the 12th from Thursday on all major streaming services. The Equality Action's partnered with a national healthcare provider, Vita, to help support BAME communities in Leicestershire and Rutland. For charity BAME access communities appropriate mental health services, improve the well-being. Lockdown restrictions made it quite difficult for him as well to perform, but Anita said we can put out this call on social media to get involved. I have to say this song certainly will be an inspiration for those of mental health. Now, Red Devils of the week for me. Well, I've got a few on my list. Michael Gove for a pretty crazy interview on BBC Breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Where he uses different types of accents and different types of high-pitched voices.
Breaking news, special headline.
We all know that.
Here's a report.
Also Russia as well. The Russian state media once again admitting that they lost troops. And also Russia get another nomination for Vladimir Putin once again saying that he'll threaten Finland with military action and consequences because they joined NATO. Please, mate, do not dictate their country. Zach, what did you make to my nominations this week?
I agree with you with the Michael Gove one. And I think he should go back to impressions rather than politics, quite frankly. This is after, oh, by the way, if you're just wondering, this was after when Boris Johnson seemed to suggest that there would be some sort of incoming measures on cost of living. The Treasury source quickly shut that down. And then Michael Gove sort of said there was nothing to see in the first place and did these special impressions as well. So I agree with you on that. Lee Anderson one I don't agree with. I think he's a total div as well. He obviously decided that he obviously is neglecting people at food banks and obviously decides that he knows better than people who actually use food banks. So, he's a total div. And to think this guy would previously used to be in the Labour Party, well, if he's got attitudes like that, then thank God he's out.
Yeah. So that's the show for tonight, guys. And also the question earlier, which artist won Britain's Got Talent in 2010? The answer to that question is Spellbound, the dance group, who won Britain's Got Talent in 2010. They were crowned winners after a very close battle with Twist and Pulse in that year's series. You can watch their performance live on YouTube. Please, guys, though, if you are watching this show after, please do not, if you want to answer the question, please do not fast forward the show until the end of the video to find out the answer. If you want to answer the question whilst I'm on the show, please, guys, make sure you watch the rest of this podcast to find out the answer as well during the show. But that's it for the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight. We'll be back again next weekend for another taste of news, another big amount of discussion on the biggest news from around the world. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time for the Charlie